the Risk of Rain 2 Seekers of the Storm DLC has come out to a less than stellar reception, and I cannot say it's unwarranted.
They introduced glitches that wiped your save file. Excuse me? That is unacceptable. I don't like this company, but you know, I have an open mind.
Who wants free things?
I want
Who loves free?
It's called Fix the DLC, Gearbox. It's called Do Your Job, buddy. I want that for free, huh? How about you fix the freaking game?
Usually, if a game sells well enough, it has a DLC, and in some rare cases, the DLC actually ends up being better than the game itself, taking everything the developers learned about the game and perfecting it. I mean, a good example is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, the Shivering Isles DLC. That was absolutely phenomenal, and then they made an even better DLC called the Horse Armor DLC, where you could spend real-life money to be able to give your horse some cool-looking armor. I think one of the most terrifying things is so many people meme and make jokes about the horse armor because it was basically the first example of DLC that was a complete waste of money and time. But if you think about it, horse armor is nowhere near as bad as what we have nowadays with games, you know, that have like premium currencies, loot boxes. Basically, any bad DLC that has ever came out, it is entirely Todd Howard's fault. I mean, another good example is Far Cry 6. The game itself is just painfully mid. I can't say anything good or anything bad about it. It's the worst kind of game where it's just mediocrity defined. But that had DLC where you could play as the villains from previous Far Cry games like Pagan Min from Far Cry 4, Joseph Sneed from Far Cry 5, and more importantly, Vaas from Far Cry 3. I actually streamed that a couple years ago, and I would easily say that that DLC, it was a roguelike, but it was better than the entire game. Yeah. Oh no, we are playing as him. Maybe it's just a render error. Just reading that deep into the video game. Yeah, it looks like Markiplier. Yeah, evil Markiplier. You remember that that shit that happened with Markiplier and Jacksepticeye? Was it like Jack Negative Eye? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. That's the exact same way that you killed him in 3 as well. That's the exact same way you killed him. That was cool.
Citro.
It only took 10 years and Far Cry did something good. There's a sniper there. Oh, that's a zip line. It's a zip line.
Oh my god, my fucking nose, man. Ugh.
And one type of game that does really well from DLC are roguelikes, because usually they add new areas, new items into the pool to break each run even more. You know, you've got games like Slay the Spire, Balatro, Binding of Isaac. Binding of Isaac came out like 300 years ago. Somehow still fun to play. One thing I do like about roguelikes though, especially with Binding of Isaac, is the cope that you get better. You don't ever really get better, let's be fair. You just keep playing the game until the game feels so bad for you that it spawns a 1% chance item that breaks the entire run. But roguelikes, even though there's a lot of customization, there's a lot of randomness, eventually you're going to hit a wall, right? You're going to see every area, you're going to beat every boss, you're going to have every item, you're going to have the most broken build imaginable 5 times in a row, and eventually it's gonna get a little bit stale. Even for a game that is meant to be played hundreds of times over, you're gonna do everything that's possible. And again, one way that developers combat this fatigue is by adding DLCs. And Balatro actually got a free DLC, which was a collab with other games like The Witcher, Dave the Diver, Vampire Survivor, and of course, Among Us. In current year, we are still having Among Us hype. Please just let the game rest, man, I beg. The only funny thing to come from Among Us is like people that play VR and then they interact with like a little child and they basically get them to scream, so then their parents get angry at them.
Your time has come. It's green. It's green. Me and Pig saw green kills. Get him out. No, get green out. Get green out. Green. It is green. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. That's good.
Going on a little side tangent though, I do think it's really cool when a smaller company actually manages to successfully do a collab with a much bigger company. Like for example, when the incredibly small indie game League of Legends would collab with Louis Vuitton. I remember that Louis Vuitton was selling like some League of Legends items that were going for like hundreds or like thousands of dollars. And I think there's like a Louis Vuitton skin in the game that's like hundreds of dollars as well. Now, another game that I really, really like that got some DLC is Risk of Rain 2. And that got a DLC called Seekers of the Storm, which they charged charge for around $15. Now, $15 for a DLC, if it's worth your time, isn't bad at all. That's a really good price. And to be fair, that's the exact same price that their previous DLC was, Survivors of the Void. Now, the clear difference being the previous DLC, Survivors of the Void, that was loved by everyone. You go on the ratings right now, you can see on the Steam page, very positive for, well, basically 5,000 reviews. So people really liked that DLC. There was a lot of content that kept them happy. And then a couple of days ago, the Seekers of the Storm DLC came out, and it has even more reviews, and they are all negative.
This guy stinks!
Now, Risk of Rain 2 is a game that I really enjoy playing in my spare time. I don't play it as much as I used to, but one great thing about the game is it was heavily moddable. You know, I had certain mods. There were definitely mods that I had installed on that game that I couldn't show on stream. Now, why was the last DLC so loved and the current one absolutely despised? What did they do? What was so bad? Did they add horse armor from Oblivion? Well, one key difference is Risk of Rain 2 and the original Risk of Rain were developed by Hoppo Games. Now, in between the time of the first DLC and the second one being released, Hoppo Games actually sold their game to their publisher, which was Gearbox. And then Gearbox took the game, completely ruined it, and spit on it. Gearbox, by the way, making amazing games like Borderlands 1, that was not very good. Borderlands 2, which was actually pretty good. And Borderlands 3, which was... it had like a Rick and Morty Easter egg, man. Like, what else do you want me to say about the game? They also did the Borderlands movie, which has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, you know what? I'm being a little bit too harsh here. They haven't had a terrible track record. They've made such classics like Duke Nukem Forever.
So, you want to make out? Just two hardened dudes sitting in an elevator snuggling out their woes in a totally hetero way? Huh.
And Aliens Colonial Marines. To be fair, though, I don't want to, like, completely attack them. They have done good games. Like, for example, they worked on the Half-Life 1 expansion, Opposing Force, which was pretty good, to be fair. Even though it added in, like, Race X, which was, like, not canon, and Valve wanted to remove that from the canon as quickly as possible. But then it made a return in Entropy Zero, which is a game I covered a year ago. The timeline's very confusing. Basically, Gearbox, they usually do publishing. When they make their own games, they usually suck. I can just imagine the three people in the comments.
But my Tiny Tina DLC, it's so good.
You even had Gore, one of the lead developers on Hoppo, basically mourning how bad the coding is, because when Gearbox took control of the game, they somehow broke all the coding, literally saying they're my poor baby. So there was a lot of confusion as to why they let go of Risk of Rain as a whole and gave it to Gearbox. Many people didn't actually know this, but like when they started working on Risk of Rain, the development team were incredibly young. They were basically still going through college. And as well, after they made Survivors of the Void, they didn't really have any more plans on more content. Gearbox offered them money so they could do what they wanted. They were college students. Anyone would have taken that deal. There was also another post here. The guy behind Risk of Rain 2 literally hates the success and they can't think of anything for the next DLC. They took the option of getting the hate and being called sellouts than getting the hate over not updating the game. We don't have any story beats planned going forward. Admittedly, we just made it up as we went along. We have literally zero concepts for DLC. We put everything into SOTV that we had ideas for. Honestly, I sort of don't like 3D games, Lamau. Do you ever think you'll top Risk of Rain in terms of success? I hope not. So it seems to be a case, unfortunately, where the developers, they got too successful and they were just kids. They were young. They didn't really know what they were doing. So then obviously, Gearbox, Randy Pitchford steps in and thinks, oh, you guys made a good game. We should take that. And to be fair, the thing is, this sounds like a bad idea. This happens a lot. I mean, Valve, for example, right? Portal, Left 4 Dead. Valve did not make these games. Valve actually bought these games off college students and then with their massive team perfected the games. This is a very common practice where big companies will come in and buy out smaller teams and take their game off them and then turn it into something that smaller team never could have done on their own. I mean, again, Left 4 Dead, you think it's a classic. It's not their game. Portal is a classic. It's not their game.
I just wanted to give you the chance to kill yourself there.
They bought them off much smaller, inexperienced teams. Now, there are many videos covering all of the glitches. There are an insane amount. I don't know how they've done it, but Gearbox somehow broke every aspect of coding in this game entirely. Everything is now tied to the frame rate, so if you have a better PC, you're going to get punished for it because enemies are going to shoot at you faster. The skyboxes are broken. I think, honestly, the only way I can convey how broken this game now is by playing this YouTube video by Noxon, who did an amazing job basically compiling every known bug that has happened since the code has been broken.
I've looked around a lot. What would that be?
Help me!
And you know why I'm making this video? Someone that hasn't touched Risk of Rain in like well over 6 months. They broke the mods that I use. The ones I hinted at earlier. They don't work on the game anymore. Actually unplayable. Honestly, if my mods still worked, I probably would have just, you know, pushed this under the rug and not really cared. But don't go after my mods. They also added a new DLC character called the Seeker. And this character got a lot of hate as well. People just didn't really seem to like the DLC characters. No. So, I mean, you look at the design, you know, it's unique. The color palette's nice. You know, I like how she blends into the current character cast without standing out too much. Now, the Seeker is meant to be more of like a supporting character. So her kit handles kind of like healing and revival of teammates, which is really helpful, especially later difficulties of Risk of Rain 2, where any contact with an enemy basically one-shots you no matter how powerful you are. But there seems to be some issues with her. Namely, the reviving, the big ability that she has, doesn't even seem to work. So if you try to revive someone, there's actually a chance that it will be incredibly delayed or not even work at all. And it wasn't even the Seeker that was bugged. Acrid, one of the main characters, they got bugged as well. Auditory issues have been a huge problem as well, and you kind of need that, especially because in the later difficulties, like I said earlier, you are going to get one-tapped. Like, no matter, as soon as that difficulty slider goes to ha 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 ha, you are dead. Apparently, opening the logbook, you know, to get like lore and stuff like that, it'll reset your audio settings. And sometimes it just gets like insanely crunchy, and that isn't a pleasant thing to listen to. And that really sucks as well, because the game has like an insane soundtrack, a really good soundtrack. And obviously you can't enjoy that soundtrack when it sounds like your headphones are trying to kill you. And they even seem to have gotten rid of like item outlines telling you like the rarity of items in the store, which is very important because a lot of people want to save money for the more rarer items. Oh wait, did you just want that item? Lamau, too bad, unlucky, because it just fell off the edge. Now Hoppo did try to fix this issue themselves, but they still left in the printers, so it isn't really entirely fixed. I mean, another good example is, you know, you want to play a new map. Unlucky, you're going to be stuck on the same map, clipping through it endlessly.
Might be fun.
There's more looting. There's more looting. We don't have to teleport until we're done.
Help me!
And if you've got a PC, you're one of the lucky ones, because apparently at the minute on console, this game is just completely unplayable. So imagine paying for this DLC, getting access to it, just to find out your money was stolen because you can't even play it. I mean, here's someone on Twitter, right, saying, when I launched the game, it won't let me interact with anything in the menu. How do I play? Try hard resetting your console. Try killing your console to get the game to work. That's the equivalent of like getting the red rings of death on your Xbox 360. No! Now, one thing that does suck about this, which always seems to happen, when the DLC is bad, people just review bomb the entire game. And Hoppo don't want that, right? Like, they don't want this thing that they've cherished and, you know, grew into having such a huge following to be attacked constantly. The game is bad, but it's not their fault. It's Gearbox's. And I think one of the worst things about all of this is there's actually a tweet of Randy Pitchford, the owner of Gearbox, basically bragging, saying, "We did it, guys. Risk of Rain 2 and our new DLC, Seekers of the Storm, tops the Steam charts." Okay, first of all, you killed Risk of Rain 2. Secondly, you did not make Risk of Rain 2. You bought an already completed game off a team of kids, and then you added a DLC that broke the code so badly, no one can actually play it now. But yeah, overall, it's just a complete mess. And honestly, like the fact that they got rid of the mods, none of the mods seem to work anymore because the code is so bad. So in my opinion, unfortunately, if Gearbox don't do an apology with tears playing the ukulele, then like dead game, absolute dead game.